Or is it that there's nothing to be ashamed of? If it's a functional human relationship, what's the big deal?
Yeah, generally, social influence pervades all over the whole place. And at a certain point in time, some social values are not acceptable. For instance, at a point in time, if you hear of a young lady going out with a much elderly man, well, it sounds as if it is a taboo. But over time, once there's a frequency of a particular, pattern, it becomes what was abnormal, what was unacceptable before, now becomes normal and acceptable. We call it a process of social change.
Right.
So that is why, since there are higher incidences of such practices, the issue of shame disappears. Right. It now looks as if it is normal, it is acceptable, for that practice. And in fact, I've had cases where some mothers, actually encourage their daughters to go out with older men. Oh, see, Ngozi has this, Ngozi has that. Ngozi is still in school, Ngozi has a car. Why not you? And say, but Mama is going out with older men. What's wrong with that? No, thereby encouraging such a person, to this. So the issue of shame gradually disappears. But nevertheless, there are still clusters within the society, clusters of people who are opposed to that pattern of behavior.
All right, we'll come back to the issue of opposition to it. Let me ask you this question. Is this actually nothing to be shameful about? I mean, what is the big deal? What do you think? I know you wanted to say something.
Yes. First, before I even answer that question, I would want to say that one of the most sacrosanct definitions about what abnormal behavior or what normal behavior is when you are doing something that is not done in the society, then it's abnormal. But once everybody in the society, once they are doing it, it's a normal behavior. If we all were eating from the ground, for instance, and somebody came out from nowhere and started eating with the spoon from the plate, it would be abnormal behavior. I don't know, Professor, if I'm right.
Okay, yes.
It would be a normal behavior because everybody eats from the ground. So, because this thing, there is a very serious proliferation of it in our universities. Every university girl is into aristocracy.
Correction.
Almost, I just said every university, just for us to understand that it has gone beyond the
don't let's put it to one. Not every.
Most university girls.
Many.
Don't say most. You don't have any proof.
Many universities.
Because I know many girls also in those universities who are not into it. So I speak for those ones.
Okay, many university girls are into it. So now it has changed from the abnormal status to now being normal.
My
because
question
a lot
is,
of people are doing it.
My question is it shameful? So many things are norm.
Yes.
The question is, does it work?
Yes,
is it shameful or not? Because all this people want to talk. You've got to get to the point quickly.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate here now. I think that it's not entirely very wrong for you to do aristocracy. Because, for instance, your parents do not have this money. You have to buy books. The lecturers are on your neck. You have to buy this thing before you can pass. There are some lecturers that devilish. You don't buy their handouts. You don't pass that course. And I do not have money. My mother sells at Yaba. She sells crayfish. My father retired some 20 years ago from Nigerian Railway Service and is here to collect his pension money. I do not have all this. I'm not justifying it. But how do I get by? How do I live within this community? How do I enjoy myself? How do I get by? Do you understand?
So your point is, if this thing is helping these people survive, there's nothing wrong in it.
There's nothing wrong in it.
Right. Okay. Someone else.
There should be something wrong with it because that man has a family.
Yes.
And he owes a lot of responsibility. And you find out in most cases, those men are not ready to cough out the same amount of money to their wives and families as much as they can cough out to those girls. So it's not about the girl getting what she could not get from her home, but she's also depriving somebody of what that person ought to get. So the issue of shame or not, we should always attach the shame to it, because you are doing something at the expense of somebody, and you are flaunting it. So the man should be ashamed of himself, and the girl should be ashamed of herself.
Right. Next.
What we should be correcting is not...
Well, I would like to add to what he said. Someone once said, if you move all the people in America, for example, to Nigeria, and Nigeria, if it was possible to move everybody here to that side of the world, and in 6 months or thereabouts, in Lagos, there won't be a lot of traffic jam. The agros will disappear. In America,
And so on and so forth.
yes. So it's the level of personal indiscipline that we have as a nation, and the media that hypes this information. Why haven't we heard of people who still stood firm, and we celebrate more of these stories to balance up? There's an issue of shame, and there's an issue of personal irresponsibility, indiscipline. That is,
Okay, that's your opinion.
Yes.
Now, pass.